This is a story, a true story, of love and betrayal, of triumph and defeat. It's a story of a woman who was ghosted so badly that her writing about the experience of it 100 years ago still echoes in agony today. It's important to know what happened to her afterward, and especially what happened to him, because what goes around comes around. Her name was Edith Jones. She was born in 1862 to an extremely wealthy family in New York City. She had all the comforts and privilege of a woman of her wealthy class. But even as a child, she wanted to do more than just be a debutante, marry well, and become a display piece for her husband. She rejected much of the etiquette and fashion of her day, seeing it as ridiculous and superficial. Edith began writing poetry at a very young age, and she attempted her first novel at age 11, only to have her mother bitterly and cruelly criticize her efforts. Writing was considered beneath Edith's station in life. Nevertheless, she continued to write, and by the time she was a teenager, her poems were being published, many of them anonymously, because she could not have her name attached to such a lowly occupation. And through it all, her mother remained cold, distant, and intent on squashing Edith's ambition. In 1885, Edith married Edward Wharton, 12 years her senior, and a very wealthy man from a Boston family. They bought many homes and traveled together. Travel was something the couple dearly loved, and Edith wrote about it extensively and about decorating and designing her homes. She also continued to write poetry, fiction, and nonfiction. Her writing was very good and very well received, but Edward was a severely depressed man, and his condition worsened. Today, we'd say he was clinically depressed, so much so that he could no longer travel or do much of anything, and by 1902, he retreated to their estate in Lenox, Massachusetts. Edith retreated with him to their home, but she languished there and longed for travel and company. She began to travel now and then with friends, staying in Europe for months at a time. Edward remained in the United States and had many extramarital affairs throughout the years. Their marriage was never one of love, but perhaps friendship, and this was very common at the time. Q. William Morton Fullerton, referred to by Edith simply as Morton. He was an author and a journalist for the Times newspaper of London. His work was not particularly memorable, but he traveled in learned circles and knew the writing world well. He was remarkably handsome and dashing, and took full advantage of this in all aspects of his life. He was introduced to Edith in 1907 by their mutual friend Henry James while living in France. In 1908, at the age of 46, Edith began a love affair with Morton, and although she was a woman in her 40s, she was still quite naive about the nature of a love relationship, having never experienced one before. Edith fell madly, passionately, hopelessly and helplessly in love with Morton. She wrote hundreds of letters to him, and he wrote to her, although not nearly as much. This was the main mode of communication back then. There was no texting or internet. It was quite normal to write a letter to someone the same day you saw them, going over details of the secret rendezvous. Edith wrote prolifically about how much she loved him in great detail, some of which was simply breathless prose. But their affair was marred often, with Morton more or less disappearing for a while. On occasion, she would return temporarily to the U.S., and his letters would grow fewer and further between, and then stop altogether. Then, out of the blue, while she was traveling, he would write exquisite love letters to her that brought her to her knees and yanked her back into the relationship. Yet, when she returned to France, he was nowhere to be found. Unbeknownst to Edith, at the same time Morton was having an affair with her, he was engaged to his half-cousin, Catherine Gerould. But she eventually grew weary of waiting for him and finally married another man. At the same time again, Morton was also living in Paris with Madame Mirecourt, an older woman whom he had swindled out of a lot of money. In addition, he had many other affairs with women and men. Finally, tremendously heartbroken, her self-esteem destroyed, her confidence ruined, Edith began to realize that the affair was over, and she wanted her letters back. But Morton ghosted her terribly. He completely went no contact. She sent letter after letter to him asking what was going on, but he never responded. "Dear, won't you tell me the meaning of this silence? What has brought about such a change? Only tell me. I could take my life up again courageously if I only understood. This incomprehensible silence, the sense of your utter indifference to everything that concerns me, has stunned me. It is a cruel and capricious amusement. It was not necessary to hurt me thus. The last turn of the screw has been the impossibility of knowing what you wanted of me and what you felt for me." The relationship ended in 1910. Edith grew and matured a great deal afterward. She divorced her husband in 1913 after having been married for 28 years. She continued to write prolifically, as always, and remained a very popular author. In 1921, she won the Pulitzer-Prize for fiction for her book The Age of Innocence. She was the first woman to ever win the Pulitzer-Prize. In her later years, she retired and lived lavishly on the French Riviera with her dogs until she died in 1937. Up until that time, she had written 7 novellas, 85 short stories, 15 novels, countless poems, many books on travel and house design, etc. She was, and still is, absolutely one of the greatest writers of the 1900s. But what happened to Morton, you might ask? Well, ghosting people was not a new thing for Morton. I am including many links in the show notes below. One in particular goes into great detail about his terrible and sociopathic behavior toward his many lovers, almost all of whom he eventually ghosted in the end. While he did write a few books and many articles, his writing career never really amounted to very much, and sadly and pathetically, until the end of his life at age 86, when he was not nearly as handsome and dashing, did not have lovers hanging on his every word, and with his writing career over, he had hung on to those many hundreds of letters from Edith. Yes, he had saved every single one of them, and had done so with other lovers previously whom he had blackmailed. She never knew for sure whether he had them or not, so the entire time she had been begging him to talk to her and had asked for her letters back. He had received those letters and knew of her agony and just filed her sorrow away in case he could possibly use it someday. Morton died in 1952, and the only thing he's remembered for, indeed the only reason he's remembered at all, is because he had a midlife affair with the famous Pulitzer-Prize winning Edith Wharton. Yes, that's right, the woman he dumped and treated like garbage. She went on to greatness and fame, and he went on to obscurity. I just love a good ending. In 1988, Edith's letters were published in a book called The Letters of Edith Wharton.